Like a big sound stage.
But if we look around and you can see the clouds go down,
Yeah.
it must be a dog.
No, that's perspective.
But what about
Do you understand
the ocean?
perspective?
Like, you
Let me
can't
get
see
your
the
question.
ocean
Let me quickly say, perspective means that when the airplane flies over my head, and it flies in the distance, it looks like it's going down, but it's a cruising level. You know that, sir, don't you?
Yeah.
So the clouds, they're at 500 meters for the next 50 miles, but to me it looks like they're going down and touching the horizon over there. That's ridiculous. That's perspective. If you take a plane, you'll go up into that cloud layer and you'll see that it's flat like a tablecloth. Yes, ma'am.
I just don't understand that much because, like, when you look at the ocean too, you can't really see the end of it, and I don't really understand the whole perspective thing. I think I'm just a little confused.
Okay, so, all right. So we can't see the ends of the ocean, but we think that we live in like a giant lake. See, a lake would have an edge run. We understand that. A lake would have an edge. If it overflowed, it would flow down to the next river. But let's just say we live inside of an enclosed lake. That's our Earth. And there is one ocean. I'm saying the Earth is not a globe. And there's one ocean, right? The USGS will confirm this. There's only one ocean on Earth. We call it Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. But the difference in height between the Atlantic and Indian Ocean is given as 9 inches. There is not thousands of feet of curvature. There's not thousands of feet of curvature occurring to our bodies of water. What happens is that when a ship, you watch a ship from the beach go away from you, it appears like the ship is going down. But two things are happening. One is the distance it goes away makes it get smaller and smaller. We know that further away, smaller. Then the angular resolution, because you're so close to the bottom of the horizon, you're 6 foot high or 5 foot high, you're looking so low, you start to lose the bottom of it first. But if I shot you up in a hot air balloon to 200 meters, well, you'd be able to see that ship, all of it, for another 5 miles. So what we're saying is that we appear to think we're losing the ship over the horizon, but if you ask the captain on the ship, is the water level for the next mile ahead of you? And the next mile he say, yeah, it's still level, I'm not going down yet, I'm not going down yet, I'm not going down yet. And eventually he'd get from England to America and say, I never went down. Just like when I put a spirit level on a plane and I found that we never go down. The nose keeps itself at 1.5 degrees up for 10 hours. It's not going down anything, up anything, around anything. It can go around in circles, east and west, but it never goes underneath this so-called globe. So we cannot be living on a globe, the water is level.
You see this situation that you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
If we use a high-powered telescope, it brings it back.
That's right. This gentleman's just confirming that when you see a ship go away over the horizon, you can use a high-powered telescope or a Nikon super zoom camera and bring that whole ship back into view, standing right where you are on the beach. And that can stay in view for half an hour or longer, long since everybody else said, no, it's gone over the curve.
Can I say something else as well? Before you said the Bible, it says about pillars.
Yeah.
It actually says immovable pillars.
Immovable pillars, thank you
And the
very
last
much.
thing, if you take the largest lake in the world and they take lasers from one end to the other, long after you get to what is called curvature of the earth, you can still see exactly level.
You've been looking in this. Yes, ma'am, you've got a question.
How you explain the satellites and the images that we have of the Earth?
Okay, firstly, we've got no photographs of a satellite in space. They're all cartoons. They're all, you can Google this yourself. There's no photographs of satellites in space. What?
To have direct images, direct videos of the Earth.
Well, yes, well, we can get these images from high-altitude planes and high-altitude balloons. We've been sending up high-altitude balloons since the 1950s. They can take a gondola that weighs 3 tons, 4 tons, even 5 tons. They can take a satellite up to 200,000 feet and they can float it up there or use the winds that are up there to move it around the Earth, or perhaps it can be steered by some kind of solar or some other system, a battery system that's on it. But we've got footage of these types of satellites being launched from the ground. Do you remember Richard Branson went around the world you may not remember this, but he went around the world in a big helium balloon many years ago. It's a massive helium balloon. It's the size of, bigger than a football stadium kind of balloon. Because as it goes up into the sky, it just fills and fills and fills. The helium expands and it can stay up there and carry a load of 5 tons. Now we've got a footage. 1 second, sir. So we've got footage of one of these helium satellites being launched from a truck where the helium balloon goes up and it doesn't launch properly, and the satellite smashes into a car and rolls the car. It's so heavy. So yes, they can float satellites into high altitude, and that's how our satellite system works. So you can have a satellite phone.
There's no satellite in the
For me, outer space.
outside of the Earth.
Outer space is fake.
The orbit.
Outer space is made up by Disney. Space is this around you is space. Disney and a guy called Werner von Braun.
And
Sorry,
the
not Werner
moon
von.
and the explain that how it's worked for you.
Okay. Well, let me just answer quickly the point that Disney is good friend. Walt Disney was very good friends with the guy who started Scientology and the guy who started NASA. Okay, just so you know, the three of them were students of Anton LaVey, Church of Satan. The Church of Satan. Let me just answer this question though. About the moon and the sun. So just like it says in the Old Testament, the moon and the sun are small lights in the room that we call Earth.
Millions of years.
So the universe as we see it has a roof, a rakia, a covering. There's a covering. There's a covering, and these are small lights. And these are small lights that travel overhead, and they're personal to each of us. Each of us is the center of the universe, our own personal universe, and the sun and the moon and the stars, they are your guardians and your guiding lights.
And what's the point to invent all of this?
To hide God from you. To hide that you are God. And that
I'm Muslim. I believe in God, but I believe also that we have a global Earth, and that's
okay.
it's
And then in that case,
in my religion, it's concurred with the Quran, concurred with the science.
well, for me, I believed in the possibility of the globe because I believed in the Big Bang Theory.
Do you believe that there is no God?
No, there is. Of course, it's God.
What's your teaching? What are you telling us?
I'm telling that God is you. That God is expressing. No, allow me. Like I said earlier on, that my example is the orange. Inside the orange are tiny little cells. Each of those cells is no less orange than the whole orange. It's just much smaller. And that's you. You are the cell within the orange. Each of us is that. Each of us is a cell within the orange. But if I can make the cell go bad, I can make the orange go rotten.
We are the creation.
Yeah, that's okay. So I'm giving you my teaching, brother. I know I went through Christian church teaching and all that. So I'm saying to you that what I believe that the religions are trying to hide is that God, like the Russian. Let me finish, please. There's the Russian nested dolls called the Matryoshka. There's 7 dolls, yes? Big one, small one. Small one is you, big one is God, Allah, everything. And between there is there 7 heavens, between this and what is at the top. It is the Most High, that is Most All. That is where we come from. But that Most All had the intention and has the power to say, I want to express myself in 1 billion different ways.
I don't understand. You are confusing.
I want to express myself in 1 billion different ways. I'm going to create a terrarium, an environment, a habitat for me to come safely, to be the little doll inside my belly.
So you don't believe that God created you?
I believe God created me.
But you tell
I
that
believe
you
that God
are
created.
part of.
Is like I said, the cell of the orange, is that still orange?
Yes.
It's all orange. It's only tiny.
I have a question.
And it is still orange. It tastes like orange. It feels like orange. It's all orange. The same as you cannot have an Allah and not be Allah, because this is Allah. Is this not Allah? The trees, the air, the ether?
No,
you?
He is
Are you not Allah? Are you not all? Arm, leg, arm, head, Allah. Allah, A-L-L-A-H, Allah, you are all. And the universe is in you and the universe is out of you. So the sun and the moon applies to the lady, we know that. The cycle of the moon is attached to the lady's female process. We know that. The male energy is the sun energy, which is why all these religions, they love to worship the sun. Jesus is the Son of God. They want you to worship the sun. And in the heliocentric science model, they want you to worship the sun, because without the sun, we wouldn't be here. But the sun is servant to you. The sun is your light, so why worship it? Why put it at the center of your solar system? When actually it's meant to be you, the Christ, at the center of the solar system with the 12 apostles, the 12 disciples, the 12 zodiacal signs, the dial that God gave us. The Sumerians knew we lived on a flat earth. The Sumerians knew that the lights in the sky were given to us as signs and symbols, and they were going to stay in their perfect arrangements and alignments and tell us when things were going to happen. The ancients knew that. The ancients knew that we were the center of the wheel, that you are the center of the hub, you are the Christ, that the wheel revolves around you, that when there's a moonlit sky, think about it next time, you've got the clouds and the moon is lighting the sky for you. But there, 20 miles, 10 miles away, the sky's dark. But ask your friend who's 10, 20 miles away, is it light for you there? She'll be like, yep, the moon is lighting the sky for me perfectly, just for a mile around there, like a light on a foggy night, just for me. But there's not over your side. The moon is your light, and it is shining on you. The sunlight, when it comes to your feet at the beach, comes to your feet only, not your friends down there.
But it does go to my friends down there.
For her, but not that light.
But how do you think about like day and night?
Day and light is simple. Day and light is simple if it's a small light and it can only illuminate half of the surface at one time. So if it was like a large football stadium and a light that only had the ability to illuminate one half at a time, and I had to just kind of move it around from one end to the other.
So
you get that?
the moon is just moving around then?
The moon is following that. It's on a slightly slower circuit.
Okay.
And as I say to people, you can watch it roll in the sky.
What about seasons?
Seasons is so if you took the football field analogy and the equator was the center line, then you've got these sort of parkway line, the next 10-yard line or the 20-yard line. That would be your Tropic of Cancer, and on the other side of that would be your Capricorn. And the sun through the course of the 365 days
It's just flat,
moves between those.
Yeah, it's just flat. Yeah. How come there's so many different seasons? Like there's like winter, super cold, like summer, you have spring. If it's not round, it's just flat. How come there's so many different seasons?
You know what doesn't make sense to me is that on a globe, how the weather can be so extremely different.
Because it's like it's so big, right? Right.
How big is it?
It's like I can't tell you the exact
Don't
number.
know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Roughly.
I don't know.
You have to guess.
How big the Earth is?
Yeah. So here's a guy defending the Earth, but you don't know it. I raised my older children past university level who on this globe, by the way. So when I gave up this globe, I had to go back and make sure I knew what I was talking about. So if you don't know the size of the globe, it's worth knowing that it's 24,900 miles in circumference around the equator, which means that we are moving right now at around about 1,000 miles an hour, which is faster than the speed of sound. But none of us can feel it, and none of you could point in the direction we're actually moving right now.
Do you think it's because of the mass?
When you were 5 years old, you were told not to trust yourself. You were told not to trust your inner God-given senses, because when you were 5, you would have had that face when teacher said to you, you're spinning right now and you just can't feel it. You were like, no, I'm not spinning, I'm not moving. And the teacher, after a year telling you that, you've got to, okay, I'm moving, I'll accept that I'm spinning. But we still can't prove it, and there's no scientific experiment that will show that we are moving. People give me the example of those lights that move in the sky as example that the football pitch is moving. But if the ball moves over your head, is the football stadium moving? Really, people. The lights are moving in the sky. Those lights have stayed in the same formation for thousands of years.
You said the moon changes,
how could they be randomly traveling like some explosion and still hold all those 12 zodiacal beautiful signs that they've held for thousands of recorded years? It makes absolutely no sense.
But you said the moon changed like spins, right? In order to cause like light and day.
Everybody has a different percentage.
Distance, yeah. I used to say that. But there's no. They're moving, but not relative to each other. You know, there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? You know, when things move in the distance more slowly, then those things parallax. There's no parallax. There should be parallax with the movement of the stars, because if they're all, think about it, if I'm traveling around 1 million miles a day, and then you've got to be in the same place in a year's time as you were last year, but your trajectory is 1,000 times further away, how fast have you got to move, and how perfectly precise do you have to be right back in the same spot in 1 year from now? Impossible. But they give us these distances that are, so far away that we as children go, nope, we can't prove that for ourselves, we'll just accept that. But in reality, if you move things differently to each other at different distances, to get them back in exactly the same place, they have to be moving at strange distances.
If you put a marble on a bowl and spin it round, it goes round in a circle. It's not exactly the same, but for all intents and purposes.
Okay, but now do it with 10 marbles.
What?
Do it with 10 marbles.
It doesn't matter how many.
Of course, because
they
see,
can't return.
but remember,
you're saying they can't return perfectly.
Okay.
I'm saying they don't return perfectly. It seems perfect, but it's imperfect. It will change eventually.
I'm going to give you another example then that we can test for ourselves. We can do laps of Hyde Park. I will do an inner lap that has a radius of 50 meters, and you can do an outer lap that has a radius of 500 meters, and we'll agree to meet each other every hour at exactly the same place.
Yeah.
How hard would that be to do?
Well, one of us will have to be faster.
Exactly. So one of us is going to have to stay with that speed. Now, there's 20, 50, 5,000 different stars that we record in the same place, and all of them hundreds of times further away. Hundreds of times further away. Hundreds of times further away. The religion is being tested. Yes. Sorry.
He was actually first.
Yeah.
No, please, you're a gentleman.
But you haven't asked the question.
If I'm flying on a plane, I don't feel it moving.
You don't feel it moving, yeah.
You feel it accelerate, you don't feel it move. In theory, I have a baby on that plane. When that baby's born, it's traveling at the speed of the plane. It never actually felt that. And if I told the baby, hey, you're actually traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, it's going to go, you're totally wrong, I can't feel it.
So you
I was
agree
born on this planet, no one was alive when this planet started spinning.
So you agree with me that we're in an enclosed capsule?
We're on the Earth with an atmosphere.
No. Let me clarify. Your example was one of an enclosed capsule. Would you agree an airplane is an enclosed capsule?
An airplane is.
So you give me an example of that. I say we live in an enclosed capsule. You've just given me an example that proves that.
There's a ceiling?
There's a ceiling.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, thermodynamics, my friend. Well, about what we call the sodium layer in science is about 60, or the carbon line. It's about maybe 60, maybe 100 miles high, but it's hard to get a bead on that. So we think it's about that. Some say near the edge of a such system, the roof like the London's Millennium Dome, the edge will come closer, and some say that Admiral Byrd, the American Admiral Explorer, he spent 20 odd years down there in the Antarctic, and they say that he might have found the edge of the dome, or reached the height of the dome.
How do you maybe find it?
Well, look, there's a lot of conspiracy in the world, particularly if it's not a globe.
I don't know. You lost me at that. You lost me at conspiracy. There's only facts. There's only facts.
Yeah, like the pandemic of 2020, huh?
Yeah, I used to fly. I'm a commercial pilot, and in the aircraft we have instruments, but there's one particular one that's an altimeter.
Yeah.
And if you set it and you fly for thousands of miles, it doesn't change. Whereas by right,
You're like a small tiny cell.
You're a flat earther, aren't you? You're a flat earther.
Basically, that means
I can tell.
Can you tell me about the orange?
The orange. The universal egg. The orange, yes. So I only look to nature for answers to how it might be that this world might work. If all of this stuff is a bit of a con, then how could it work? And we all know that in nature, every fruit needs a skin. Every tree needs a bark. Every plant needs its own covering, right? If you break that covering, the plant will probably die. The apple will dry, the orange will dry out. We know that. The tree can be ringed and die. Yeah? So everything needs its own bark, its own enclosure. So I look to the orange and the apple as great examples of what an electromagnetic torus. You understand what an electromagnetic torus is? No? Okay, so I'm sorry, not recording, but there's an American guy called David LaPointe started doing some experiments called the primer field experiments back in 2008. And if you look at how an electromagnet can work in a high-powered gas vacuum chamber, you can create an Earth, basically. You can create an electromagnetic system that could represent itself eventually as a being, as a human, as an Earth, and so on. So this David LaPointe primer field experiment is definitely worth looking at, but obviously I don't want to lose you guys on the science side of it. But if you look at the orange and you cut it down, if you put it on a table and you cut it down top to bottom, and you let it fall open, then the line that falls from the North Pole, or the north of the orange, to the South Pole is bisected in the middle with a little seed pod. Yeah? So if I was to magnify my orange up 1 quintillion times, that orange and those seed pods would be oceans, and those seeds would be continents that you and I could walk on. So that's an example of how in the microcosm we can show how the macrocosm might work. But it does mean that we live inside a system of varying pressures. So there's thinner and thinner gases and air as we go up, and thicker and deep and more dense moisture as we go down. So we know that inside of this bubble, inside of this egg, there is a Goldilocks zone, a habitable space that is just perfect for the seeds, the creation seeds, which is us, to express themselves on the perfect green continents that are these seeds now magnified up to something the size of a continent. So that's my universal sort of orange sort of hypothesis based on
the Earth is flat?
Well, the water's flat. We have one sea level. So when a ship comes from America to England, is it going downhill or uphill?
But it's gradually. It's not just like a
from wherever it is on the planet, it's like going around.
yeah.
So like, if you think about like
It's always
gravity,
going round.
Just gradually.
See, that's programming of the mind, because if you really lived on a ball, then coming from South Africa, as I did recently, I'd actually be having to come up the side of that ball. Yeah. Because that's what it is. No, I call it a head.
But
You call your head a ball?
Because we call it round, right?
Yeah.
But your head's round, so why don't you call it a ball?
Okay. So you're a little
What you're trying to do is use loaded language to
yeah, well, what is the
just
sphere?
to say, oh, well,
Is a football?
like,
It's not triggered, it's just crazy. It's more minds. You just don't know how to answer.
You're a little upset because your religion's
You
under
just don't
attack.
know how to answer the
I
questions.
can tell you that. You know, a ball is a sphere. You know, football is a sphere. Would you agree? And we're told we live on a sphere, and that in 3D is a ball, a sphere. So we're told we live on a ball, and it was called the blue marble, and a marble is a ball. My friend, you are being triggered by the attack on your religion.
Ask him.
Why should I show you? You show me that it looks like a globe. Show me that water's leveling. Show me. You're making the crazy claims. The crazy claims.
Yeah. He doesn't know how. That's why he's avoiding
saying it's not a globe. It's not a ball.
Okay, so we know that's what you believe. So now,
No, I know
show us what it looks like.
Yeah, what does the Earth look like?
I know what you believe.
All
You
right,
believe
so
it's not a globe.
would you like a top-down view? So if I cut open my egg, if I cut open my orange, yeah, if I slice it open and open it up like that, can you imagine looking down and seeing those sort of star pattern of shape of the inside of the fruit when I cut it through the equator? Can you imagine that? Lots of fruit will show you that same pattern. Well, that same pattern is the pattern of our continents. Our continents are, you know, give or take, something like that. Exactly how they look. There's no single globe, there's no single map on the Earth that is agreed as the definitive, only correct version of how the Earth looks. So I think that if you look down on it, it would be like looking down on a swimming pool that had like a rock formations in the middle.
So you think if we walk across it, we can reach the like keel of the orange?
Yes.
But why hasn't anybody done that?
Do you know of the Antarctic Treaty?
No.
Do you know of Admiral Byrd?
No.
He was the most celebrated admiral in the U.S. Navy and had 3 ticker tape parades through New York for the man. He was famous for having explored the North Pole and then spent 30 years with an entire fleet, an aircraft carrier and a fleet of ships. For 30 years he did exploration down in the South Pole. They did Operation High Jump, Operation Deep Freeze, and they did a whole lot of atomic explosions against what we think was the roof in the same period. And the year after he stopped, 1956, they signed the Antarctic Treaty. All countries that have been at war with each other, Russia, Germany, UK, America, Canada, all of these countries signed this treaty. It's still alive today, and it stops anybody, any country, from doing any exploration below the 70th parallel. You can't take your boat down there. You've got to be a multi-millionaire. You can't take your boat down there. It took. Well, Ranulph Fiennes, a celebrated British explorer, I met his crew on the S.A. Agulhas, which was a ship designed to go into the Antarctic. He was going on an expedition across the Antarctic, across a peninsula of the Antarctic. This is about 5 or 6 years ago.
Are there pictures to prove it? Are there pictures to prove it?
What, that I went on it?
No, but just that, like, the ceiling, because you said there's only one picture to prove that from the moon that the Earth was round.
Yeah.
So are there pictures to prove that?
To prove that water is level?
No, to prove like the mission in Arctic or whatever you said. Like,
Okay, so the Antarctic missions by Admiral Byrd are well documented. You can go and see him on CBS. news saying that I've been down there, I found land bigger than America, there's
But that's
resources
what people
there.
that went to the moon said as well. Does he have like actual pictures that he
Okay,
took
so
there?
yeah, okay, I'll give you that it might be fake. But I know for sure, so I spoke to this crew on this boat that were, this is the point I'm trying to make, is that Ranulph Fiennes, a respected British explorer, he's been knighted by the Queen, took him 5 years to get permission to go on a little walk across a peninsula at the Antarctic. Why? Why has it all been locked down? Why isn't BP, Shell, the American oil companies, why aren't they mining the heck out of that place? At least exploring it. It's not even.
There are reasons.
It's not worth it because we already have our resources
worth
here.
it?
Because it's like.
Are you kidding me?
Inhabitable.
They're telling people, and most of you already probably think that there's too many humans on Earth, that we are overpopulating, that we're using too much of the oil.
To avoid a war over the resources there, for ecological reasons, there's a number of reasons.
Okay, so you guys are, okay, great. So without having done the research, you guys are offering the explanation as to why. So this has to be, because I hear the
So
same
you've done all the
excuse.
research and we haven't, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
pretty much.
So how do you know what research I've done?
Well, if you had, you'd know about the Admiral Byrd
I know exactly what it
expedition.
is. No,
You know
so
what
did I say I haven't? I don't know about Admiral Byrd. You keep making assumptions, you keep making personal comments as well, which suggests maybe that you're not too sure about the information that you're standing on. So I'd still like to know what the Earth looks like.
So if the Earth is a plane,
Well, Earth is mountains.
what's the depth of that plane? How deep does it go?
How deep have we drilled into the Earth? You'll know this. You've done the same research I have. How deep? What's the deepest mine on
That's
Earth?
not what he said.
What's the deepest mine? Anyone? Anyone? You must know.
7 miles or something.
Close. 8 miles. 8 miles. And it's called the Kola Deep mine in Russia, and they gave up because for 2 years they only managed to get an extra 20 centimeters deeper into the ground. 8 miles is all we've been, but we claim, globalists claim, that they know what's 4,000 miles beneath our feet. Now, so how deep are we gone? The Mariana Trench, we believe, is about 11 miles deep, something like that. And there is...
Do you know why they are able to claim what the Earth is made of 4,000 miles deep?
Sorry?
Do you know why they're able to claim what the Earth, the inner Earth is composed of?
Yeah, because people believe any shit they tell them.
But why would they
But
lie
you're not
to
aware
us?
of the science behind the claim.
Yeah. So tell me what the
So
science
they
is.
use like seismic
In scientific
equipment to send,
observations and results
I think they're
from
called
Antarctica
S
shall be
waves,
exchanged
like
only
shear
freely
waves and so on. They send them down.
It was meant
They
to
time how long those waves
demilitarize
take to
Antarctica.
come back to their telemetry equipment, and the time that it takes is what allows you to infer what the material it's traveling through is made of.
So do you believe we have a molten core at the center of the globe?
It's not about what I'm not saying what I believe. I'm just.
Oh, no,
at
because
no
you
point
must-
have I said what I believe.
You must surely have some views
No,
on
but I'm
that.
saying, but you kind of just throw away the science as if,
No, well,
they
because-
say they know
yeah,
it's
yeah,
4,000 miles down
Oh.
but they've
Because
only been
once
able
upon
to
a
drill,
time,
but they've only been able to
because once
drill
upon a time,
8
my friend,
miles.
I was naive like you, and I believed the science. I believed that we could tell
You keep
that
resorting
things
to ad
were.
hominem, you keep trying to make
Well,
personal
because you
comments
are, my
about
friend,
me, but
my
stick to the
friend,
information.
because you are
Stick to the
naive
information.
when you haven't looked at the information. You probably still think, like I did, that dinosaurs and billions of years of history could be
So
excavated.
now you're stepping to another topic because you don't want to deal with this seismology issue.
No, because no, what I'm saying is why seismology matters is because with the carbon dating that I believe could give us 65 million year old dinosaurs, 135 million year old, all of that. I believe that, but at the end of the day, it's just a machine. Just as the same as someone says to me, oh, they're bouncing a light off the moon. But that's just a machine made by the deceiver. So how the magician gives you a machine and says, I've just cut this woman in half, you're going to believe that? You're going to believe that, right?
So do you have a map of what the Earth looks like?
I suggest to people that it looks like the Mercedes logo, maybe. So if you cut a star fruit through, or if you cut like a fig through like
But
that.
is there a map?
Yeah. Well, a fairly accurate map.
So what is it?
It would be the Mercator projection, the azimuthal equidistant, probably. I don't necessarily have. I don't need a map. I know that the maps that we have, none of them are accurate. I know that you can say. Why not?
When a plane takes off, do you think the pilot's like, oh, I'm hoping I'll get to where I'm aiming for? They know exactly where they're going. To suggest we don't know where land masses are is ridiculous.
No. Can you? There is no one agreed map of the Earth. There is no one agreed globe of the Earth.
Well,
And I'll give
are
people
land
this
masses
great
moving?
example. You've got to ask. I'll give people this one example, and that is that the flight from Johannesburg to London is 11 hours. If you take a string over a globe and run that 11 hours, and then run that around to South America, you can reach South America with that 11-hour flight, but it's a 15.5-hour flight from Johannesburg. Now people say, oh, it's to do with the speed of the plane or do with... No. It's because they're having to go further. The continents are not exactly where they say they are. That's why you can't fly from North America to South Africa. You have to fly into Europe to fly to South Africa. And then South Africa has to fly to Abu Dhabi into the northern hemisphere to get to
Continents
Australia.
aren't exactly what you see on a globe because they're inaccurate. Because when you flatten
Big
out
Bang
a
is
map,
a lie,
it's not going to
another
be
lie.
exactly.
How do you explain the creation of time?
The creation of time? Time is a man-made construct. There is no such thing as time. Every moment is
That's why
all
it's
there
not
is.
accurate.
No, but you can't go backwards.
Because like the sizes are.
You can't go backwards.
I can think about the past.
It's fake. The around there is fake.
Yes,
Also,
right.
when you
flat
see,
one.
also
It's all flat.
when you see maps like in the US, the
You
US,
see, like, time only goes forward. Like, from here to
like,
tomorrow,
yeah,
and there's, like...
No, that's not necessarily true. I just think it's almost like it's moving through you. So, you know, every moment is the only moment you have. There's no future and there's no past. We know something happened and something's going to come.
Right.
But
Something
this is
happened
all we
in the
have is the right now. Anyway, back to your concerns.
Yeah, I mean, this idea that there's no agreed upon map of the flat Earth when every plane that takes off
I
arrives
said there's
at
no
its-
agreed upon map of the globe. Let's start with that. If everybody has been working on the globe for the last 200 years, you'd think that we'd have it buttoned down.
Yeah, it's used,
Satellite
and
program, by the way,
planes arrive
there's no...
where they intend to arrive.
Oh, that's a different thing. You know, pointing something in a direction that's there and so on. It's not the same as mapping everything like it should be. And then there are these inconsistencies with flights, where flights do not make sense on the Earth projection, the globe projection, but they make sense.
This flight idea to the azimuthal equidistant maps centered on the Arctic, that model completely falls apart.
Yeah.
It suggests that Australia and South America are on opposite sides of this dish, and that when you look south from South America, you can see the same constellation you can see when you look south from South America. So how can you be looking at the same constellation when you're looking in opposite directions, when you're back to back effectively?
Yeah, I don't support that map necessarily, but it's a discussion and a debate that people who've already got past the basics, like water being level, got past that. You're not moving. You've got to get past that stuff before we can debate what it might be. Because, by the way, in a flat Earth movement, there is no consensus about how any of this. I don't agree with most of this 8 inches per mile squared that they push. I think is a complete lie. You know, I don't believe that. You guys don't believe 8 inches per mile squared either, but that's part of the lie. But now I want to offer you something to think.
On something that, unless it's perfectly spherical, I don't think anyone claims that.
Okay, all right.
We know the Earth isn't a perfect sphere. We know that it's not a perfect sphere.
Soon, well, the only way you could know any of that, my dear, is to have seen a photo. And that photo had to have been given you by NASA. And NASA admit, this man here, he admits rock surface.
That's not true. What about JAXA?
They're all using the same logo, bro. They're all
it's the Japanese space agency.
Yeah, you see, this is the beautiful thing about flat Earth is that you realize that Russia versus America is a lie. Russia versus Iran, America versus Iran.
You're changing the subject now. You're just talking about pictures of the Earth.
Yeah, but no, because you brought up JAXA. JAXA is evidence that even the Chinese space agency, you know,
Japanese.
Yeah, but the Chinese have been on the moon. Did you know they had a rover on the moon now?
That's what they claim.
Exactly. Do you believe it?
I don't have a belief position on it.
Because people.
I don't know.
But surely, if they're part of the same space agency, and NASA could call them out if they were.
No, one's Chinese, one's American, one's Japanese. They're not the same agency. So I'm saying, do you think all the images that are provided by the Himawari satellite, for example, do you think they're all fake?
Yeah.
Or based on what?
Because we can't get out
just
there.
your pre-existing.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And but why do you give them credence based on your pre-existing
I
bias
don't
towards believing what you're told by the TV?
I don't take a positive.
Turn the TV off.
I don't take a positive position.
TV's bad for you.
I don't say I believe it or I don't believe it. This is the information that they provided. But you seem to be taking a position against it, so I'm just trying to understand why. Like the claim that all images from space are composites or CGI. So how are they all CGI, for example?
This guy.
What image from your phone is not CGI? You're taking a phone, you have a sensor in there, the hardware in your phone interprets the information that hits the sensor and creates an image. So it's not. So can I claim that that's CGI?
No.
It's all digitized.
No. If I'm as I am now using this to film something whole, I'm filming the whole of you. I'm not going to, if offer someone data strips in a few days' time and say, listen, I filmed this guy, I want you to take this data and turn it into this guy that I spoke to. No, this is a photograph, this is a video,
that's what your phone's doing
using
for you.
wordplay. Your
phone's already doing that.
But CGI means
your phone does not see me as you see me. Your phone takes in information, interprets it, and compiles an image.
And when I get home,
so then, what would you say if I claim then that image is CGI? That would be nonsense. So when someone takes a photo of the Earth, for example, and they adjust the levels, the tone, the contrast, the color saturation, what have you, how then do you say that's CGI? No, they said. I know the claims. They're Photoshop because they have to be. That's the claim that flat earthers hang their hat on. But of course it's Photoshop.
So you think that these are photographs? This is him.
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
These continents don't look the same size, bro. You know,
these are not my images.
I wouldn't want to be standing on them
They're
either.
not my images. You might have made those.
No, that's your NASA. That's your religion.
That's my religion. I haven't made any belief claims.
I don't hear you calling them out for their obvious lies about going to the moon.
I haven't said. I haven't claimed they're real or wrong. I'm just challenging your position.
But you're not hearing any of that. I'm sure I said to you earlier on, they've never taken a spacesuit into a vacuum chamber.
How do I know
say that? If you could evidence that, right?
Can you evidence it? Give me your sources.
No, until I see evidence, I'm not going to believe it. Why should I believe it?
I'm
Just
asking
because
you to believe it.
Well, you want to believe
You're the
it.
one making claims.
You don't want me to challenge the beliefs. That's
no,
what
you're making
don't.
claims. So I'm just asking you to evidence your claims.
I have no. My claim is I've seen no evidence of a man in a spacesuit in a vacuum chamber. Hold on. Have you seen that?
Is the Earth flat?
Have you seen that?
I'm not making any claims about it.
I'm asking you if you've seen that, because surely that's part of the intelligent process to go, shit, they can actually take a man in a vacuum chamber on Earth. That's a starting point. So you're believing it's possible. I'm saying that they've not shown us that. I've looked for the evidence.
Didn't you say earlier that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence? Did you not say that? I think you did in an earlier conversation. I mean, yeah, I haven't seen it, so I will not form an opinion about it. Does that mean it doesn't exist?
Well, if you hadn't, you wouldn't have such trouble with me saying that. You go, yeah, because when people
people
are open-minded about it,
you
they
cannot
go,
evidence.
let me see, I'll show you this. I can show you a man in a vacuum chamber doing all of that. I can show you that. I went and looked because I'm an intelligent man. I thought I'd better go and check for myself. But I couldn't.
What makes you even think that you'd be privy to that information? Let's say let's say it's classified.
Why would it be classified, bro?
That's not for me to say. That's not for me to say.
So humankind is doing this incredible thing. It's going into space, and it's documenting some of that stuff, like how they fly the lunar lander on Earth.
They documented some of it.
That? Yeah. So they got some of that. Then they wanted to take golf clubs all the way up into the moon, and they did that, and they showed us golf clubs. But you don't want to bother that. They didn't show us how any of the hard parts of that, the vacuum chamber elements, the moving through airlocks, getting in and out of that tiny spacecraft that they had these big bulky spacesuits to deal with.
They show us moving around spacecraft now, right?
They show that, but it's possible that could be a magician's act, right? Isn't it possible? Like, you see, when you look at it, there's three composite elements to that. One is they can use a circus harness to get you to float and do a head spin. One is they can do the vomit comet, which is what that is.
Parabolic flight.
Yeah. And then the other is that they do the spacewalk in a swimming pool.
Or that it's real.
Well, that's
because I'm trying to be intellectually honest and say all the possibilities you've just mentioned are worth consideration. But where you're not being honest is you're not accepting the possibility that it's true.
I used to. You see, up until the age of 47, when I was a young man like you, I used to believe that shit.
I'm not much younger than you.
I'm 54. So, you are younger than me. Let me tell you something,
you've shut the door on one possibility.
Well, because I was in that door. Remember?
You're more receptive to the idea that it's aliens than that man's actually been to space.
No. Don't bring aliens into this. Aliens belie a lie, and belief belies the lie that lies within belief. Belief is founded on a lie. Now, here's the thing. I used to think I was a teenager when they were doing the this Challenger, the space shuttle. I was a teenager, man, and I was all over. I loved that. And then I found out that the Apollo mission that blew up, 6 of those 7 astronauts have been found with twins. What a coincidence. so many other elements of it that I had to say, shit, that's not possible. Then I start seeing the evidence of the ISS, like guys, where you can see Tim Peake's harness. You can see his trousers are full of the harness the day he does the interview for Channel 4. You can see that guys are on. Why are you saying no? When you haven't looked. Have you looked?
Why are you saying that?
Have you looked? So you've looked
Maybe
at the
I've
harness.
looked and I disagree with you.
So you say that the
Maybe
little
I've
Tim
looked and I
Peake-
disagree. What you think is a harness may just be the way his trousers are behaving in zero gravity.
Zero gravity.
I'm saying maybe, why would I fix myself
you
to
are-
one position or
You
another?
are needing to make excuses for what I see. So what about bubbles on the helmets? What about
Why is it not an explanation?
during a spacewalk? We've never seen a man go through into the airlock and then in one unbroken footage. Anyway, in a spacewalk, we've never seen the third wall or the fourth wall. We've never seen a 360-degree pan in a spacewalk. We've also seen bubbles leaving helmets. How do you explain that?
You're saying that you've seen that. I would have to see it.
Then I suggest you go and do the research.
I've
You
seen
told
what is
me
claimed
and
to
these
be
other
bubbles.
people earlier
I've
on.
seen what has been
You've
claimed
done
to be
all
bubbles.
the.
Could be debris.
Oh, it could be debris. Again, more excuses. What about the time the astronauts?
Why are you characterizing it as an excuse? I'm giving you a possible explanation the same way.
Ah,
All of this is a possible explanation.
Why
for your-
religious
for
people keep
your
making
beliefs.
excuses for their beliefs?
I haven't made any belief.
Okay, what about the time the astronaut's helmet half filled and he nearly drowned? How half filled with water? How do you explain that?
That I definitely haven't seen.
It was on the news. It's not a secret. It's not a conspiracy. They even said after this we had to start using some kind of mouth breathing apparatus. It was due to a flaw in the machines, in our suit's cooling system. Water got into the helmet. Oh, that works perfectly for a NASite. You will believe that bullshit. So then there's
But you're
other
saying
things.
what was it caused? That the whole thing was underwater.
Okay, so when you
and
look
the suit leaked?
okay, yeah. So when you look at the spacesuit that they do the training on in a swimming pool, it's the same suit that they use in space, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, you've not looked at this enough then. I thought you'd done the same research I had. Gosh.
I don't know if it's the same suit.
Do you
It
even
may
know
look
where
the
they
same.
do do you even know where they do the training?
Cape
No.
Canaveral?
No. It's in Texas.
Okay.
Okay. So really, you have not
Are you
done.
like point scoring?
You have. I'm just.
Yeah, but that's like me saying, oh, you
reinforcing
didn't
to
know
you.
how they work out
When
what
I
the
say
Earth
to
is
you
made of.
naive, you remind me of me 10 years ago, young man. You remind me of me 10 years ago, because I thought I knew shit. I knew fuck all. When I was 47
now you
years
know it all,
old,
right?
7 years ago, I knew fuck all. I'm
You still know
learning
fuck all,
stuff.
to be honest.
I'm learning stuff.
You know,
I'm
like
on
fuck
my
all
way.
plus one at this point.
Okay,
But
which
you're
is a
preaching
long
as
way
if-
from being -1 and fuck all. So let me tell you, not only that, in space, we have seen a reflection of a scuba diver during a spacewalk. Now I was going to say about the spacesuit, but you don't want to see this or
How do
hear
you know
this.
that's not CGI?
You'd want
How
them
do you know
to
one of your mates
CGI
didn't
that
make
in. CGI that
But
into
how
a
do you
NASA
know?
footage.
Yeah, to undermine it,
Okay.
to discredit it.
No, you're really good at this excuse making. You should go
No,
into
but everything
religion.
that you claim NASA is capable of, why are Flat Earth community not capable of doing a composite on a photo
Okay,
or
here's- okay.
CGI
Okay.
or superimposing a scuba diver's face into a reflection? It's quite
so
easy to
here's,
do actually.
Okay, here's an observation you can make yourself. That can't be CGI. They are using the identical suit in the spacewalk as they are in the swimming pool.
How do you know
in
it's
the swimming
identical?
pool?
Internally.
From the outside, it looks the same, and I've never heard them say anything other than we're testing all the devices on the suits and we're using them in the pool so that we can mimic near
it's watertight,
gravity
it's
and so on.
probably-
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. No, completely wrong.
Okay.
Because actually, a vacuum is a sucking force,
Right.
whereas a pressure 2-3 bar underwater, 20-30 meters underwater, is a pressing force, and these are two completely different forces in science. One is pulling and one is pushing. The suits would need to account for that very much.
But in
and the way that
both,
they
in
would
both
need to
cases, would the
vary.
suit not be pressurized?
So the amount. So no. Well, okay. In a vacuum, if something that's small will just pop like this. Something it'll just suck it all open like that. Yeah. But if you put it underwater under pressure, it will crush it all down. Do you understand that? Those are two completely opposite forces. And yet the suit is identical looking and operating in both scenarios. This is Disneyland programming for children mind, to keep you in the belief that we can go into an outer space vacuum that is so violent that it should suck our atmosphere away in a nanosecond, that if any man or anything or Elon Musk's car, he sent a car into space. Did you know that, Elon Musk?
I saw a photo.
Yeah, he sent a Tesla Roadster into space. He didn't have to do anything to or worry about the vacuum of space and the pressurized pneumatic tires or the melting of the paint. It just perfectly works in space. And you know what?
How do you know the tires were like road tires as they would be on Earth?
Because he said I didn't adjust the car at all. His own words, and he said, you know what? It looks so fake. It must be real. It looks so fake. It must be real. This is your Elon Musk, your God, the guy that you think is going to save your humanity. My friends, the earth is flat. We've been lied to since childhood. Everything about the globe is a complete deception and against God. It is against the Creator's intention. You flew a long way to get here, and I can assure you the plane flew level at 35,000 feet for 10 hours. No problem. Do you know how to explain?